Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on the place you are connecting from. Welcome to the CDEV talk about AI-driven DevSecOps orchestrating security at cloud scale. Thank you for joining us. Today we are talking about something that is reshaping how software gets built and secured, the role of artificial intelligence in the DevSecOps. According to recent surveys, over 60% of DevOps teams are already experimenting with artificial intelligence to automate testing, security, and even the deployment workflows. Gartner also predicts that by 2026, more than 40% of the security operations will rely on AI-driven decision making. That shift isn't just about saving time, it's about making security scalable without slowing the innovation. To explore this, I'm joined by Ashwini City. Welcome, Ashwini. Thank you for
Hi,
being here. Okay,
hi all of you, and hi. Thank you for having me here.
thank you to you. She's a was board member and cybersecurity leader who has a lot of experience leading the secure software development lifecycle orchestration efforts at a global scale and actively contributes to shaping open security practices. I'm Jesús Cuadrado, product manager in Xygeni. So yes, to start this session, we are going to try to share what we have seen in helping teams automate remediation, reduce noise, and regain control over the complex application security environments. To start, let's start with the big picture. Artificial intelligence already affects or is changing the way we develop software and we test the software using these copilots and these different products that we have involved in our day-to-day, but its impact on security orchestration is just beginning to scale. Some reports, as mentioned before, show that more than 62% of the DevOps teams are now using artificial intelligence and machine learning to automate certain parts of the development lifecycle. More than 30% apply it directly to security tasks, so like scanning, triage, and code reviews, for example. This is a shift about how we think about the security, not just as a set of tools, but as a continuous orchestrated flow of decisions. Based on these changes, Ashwini, or based on your experience, where do you think that artificial intelligence is having the strongest impact today to improve the coordination, reduction gaps across the life cycle and these places?
Yeah, I think AI is known to boost productivity, right? So it holds good with security and secure development life cycles too. In the past, we've really struggled with as a security team in a given organization, we struggled with engineering teams, with development teams to make them understand what security looks like and how they can shift left and how they can inculcate security right from the go, right? So that has always been a problem. So AI is going to help with developer velocity, yes, and in terms of security activities also for developer velocity, right? So to stress the point, I would say it would help with accelerated secure design and secure coding. We already have solutions that prompt lines of code but not necessarily secure yet, but eventually in the coming days, right, we can embed policy as something that is prompted, and developers don't have to go back and build it and then scan it to understand if there's an issue, right? So at their fingertips, vulnerabilities can be called out and said this is not a safe way of writing code, and that's how truly shift security left. So I think it's going to drastically improve developer velocity, and that is going to be the biggest impact. Instead of people developers rather spending n number of cycles, they're going to just spend a fraction of that time, and that is going to increase developer velocity. And it doesn't stop there. That means it's also going to increase the time to market for products and applications. So it means that it's going to be so much more competitive as a business, right? So it's going to change a lot of it, and that is the biggest impact that I see with AI with respect to those secure development life cycles.
Yeah, I agree with you. You have mentioned two important things. I think the productivity and the velocity. Probably these two concepts are, or the challenge to achieve these improvements is based on the manual activity that the DevOps team are doing. It's not just about the developers. It's okay. The DevOps is doing the decisions, the review of the results of the analysis, and everything is more or less done manually, and it consumes time. And when they detect something, they have to notice to the developer that it have some time to do this. So the developer has to back again to the past and this kind of thing. So as you mentioned, artificial intelligence is providing these mechanisms to automate the way the decision-making process, that as we mentioned before, and to build more adaptive and intelligent pipelines in the sense, okay, that we can adapt to the specific context in each moment. We can take decisions in the moment the pipeline is run, in the moment the developer has done the pull request, for example. So they receive immediate feedback and information to solve it immediately. So they don't have to go ahead and then back. So they can solve everything as soon as they provide to the repository, for example. Yeah, I think the other part is the other part of the complexity of the pipelines is based on the high number of tools that the DevOps is managing. They are managing tools for SAT, for SCA, for secrets, for dynamic analysis. So usually, or the problem until now is they have to go to different places, put all together and do all the aggregation, all the duplication, all the prioritization manually. And it's again time consuming. And the solution till now is to have different pipelines or different stages. So, but I think the good point now is that we can put everything together, and this artificial intelligence or these mechanisms can decide taking the full picture, and they can decide based on the different issues in the different tools, or the duplicate, or doing all the decisions quicker with more precise capability. So I think this is the main point they are providing to this flow. So I don't know if you see more or less in the same way.
Yeah, I think AI-powered risk rating is one of the things I would say. So it would be able to correlate signals or vulnerabilities or weaknesses from different dashboards and put it across in a natural language summarization to developers, so that it's easy to understand also at the same time, and they don't have to sift through n number of issues reported. So it's called out naturally. And also there's one other value add when we talk about bringing in multiple source of truth, right? I mean, we have scanning report, be it code review or secret scanning or pen testing. We have results coming in from all of these security verification activities. And yes, we talk about prioritizing them using AI risk-based approach and blah, 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 and all of that. But we also forget about the fact that each of these security activities can give sometimes duplicate results, right? Maybe my code scanning is calling out the same issue as one other security verification activity. So as a developer, I don't want to spend time looking at these again and again, right, when I've already fixed it. So one of the things that AI could help us here is deduplication, right? I mean, it could consolidate all of these vulnerabilities under a common head. Maybe all sorts of injection can be combined under an injection attack control and give remediation for it, right? And then when for under it you have the different sources called out and different areas where of the product where this issue comes from called out, and then probably a specific remediation called out. That way you sort of reduce the number of issues reported to, so that cognitive load that a developer or an engineering team has to go through is also reduced. So it's not just developer velocity, it also improves developer experience is also what I think. So you're right in the sense that it's going to help correlate all the different inputs coming from different security verification activities. That is also one of the bigger impacts of AI.
Yeah, you have introduced in fact, when we talk about vulnerability management, we have the three stages: the detection, the prioritization, and the remediation. We have explained very well the prioritization and I think that what you consider that is the main point or the main difference of applying the artificial intelligence in this prioritization. You have mentioned a lot of things that about exploitability, for example. Do you think that there is something special about the exploitability or how to detect exploitability in order to prioritize based on the impact of the application or something like that? Or is another attribute more than to consider, or if they can calculate the exploitability in some way?
Yeah, I think contextual awareness and enrichment is important in this case. So, how you train your models and what input is provided can vary from organization, from use case to use case, right? So, if you've provided with the right inputs, if you've embedded the right rags, yes, and that contextual awareness happens. In that case, yes, it can be used. It's not just about vulnerability, then it can be the asset criticality, it can be the business impact, it can be actual exploitability of the issue, and it can also be something that it connects to external sources and deep vulnerability databases to understand if there have been similar issues reported before and what have been the outcomes of these. So it can be a correlation of multiple such signals depending upon how we train the model. And yes, so it's certainly possible, and I think if we're using AI the right way, all of these things that I just spoke about have to be an input to generate that kind of contextual enrichment.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when considering about the vulnerability management, you have mentioned more or less all the, let's say, the key signals to provide this prioritization, this intelligent prioritization, taking into consideration, you have mentioned business impact, exploitability. Very important to have external sources to complement all the information and to calculate everything. I would just from the detection point of view, for example, I think that artificial intelligence is enabling some other scenarios. For example, two of them could be the false positive. With all this information about the context and the specific environment of the customer, the artificial intelligence is providing a new mechanism or new mechanisms to remove false positive. False positive in the sense that they could not apply to the specific customer because the way they work or the specific configuration, even the behavior of the managers from security teams that usually configure or make the management of the vulnerability. So the systems can learn about what is actual alert or what's a false positive in the context of the company. So this contributes a lot to reduce the number of issues that the teams has to manage, for example, and these kind of things. And then I think
I'm not sure if a false positive scenario is right away there, right? I mean, I would, as a security person, I think I would still be skeptical. I mean, I would, at least in the end, I mean, for the first pass, yes, I would completely trust AI with what the output. But in the last, at least, I would have some human oversight to really evaluate if it's a false positive or not. Maybe from a security team and not somebody from the engineering or the development team, because we don't want to overburden them. That's the whole agenda. So yeah, so maybe slightly invest some time to really validate if it's or really just review if it's a false positive or not. Yeah.
No, actually, I agree with you, but actually, it's not only to review the false positive. I think that every time that we put some artificial intelligence decision or based decision there, all of them has to be validated by a human. I mean, just to reinforce the training, or because probably the artificial intelligence is going to be able to manage 90% of the situations very well, but those 5% that is a very difficult or very risk change or something like that, or a new scenario or a new situation has to be validated by a human, not only for false positives, but also for detection, even for remediation. Actually,
Right.
nobody accepts a remediation without reviewing the change that this kind of solutions are providing. So I agree with you that not only for all positive, but for all the decisions, we need some monitoring and some approval or reinforcement
Yeah.
by a human. So yeah,
Yeah.
the
The
other
day,
scenario. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think the day AI stops hallucinating is when we can not have to do that too. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
till then, yeah,
And
human
during
oversight
some
is
time,
important. Yeah.
while we build the trust in the algorithm and these stages, these initial stages, where while you are deploying the solution based on artificial intelligence, I think that this is an important point. But yeah, in the midterm, probably we don't need to monitor everything. Yeah. I was mentioning regarding this detection capability, the one scenario is the false positive, and the other one is, for example, the predictive analysis, taking into consideration this context and all this information you mentioned before, just to analyze, okay, what is going to be the most probable attack or the next issue, or just to have some information to being able to classify, put the correct priority there. I took note of one company that implemented centralized place where they put all the vulnerabilities together automatically. So in that place, in that data set, they inject everything and they automatically do the classification and the prioritization of the issues, all them together from SAST, ACA, IEC, and all the things. They reduced around 90% the manual activity. They still need some refinements and some monitoring, but I think that is a very good sample of the potential achievements that we can get with the application of artificial intelligence capabilities. And the other
Yeah.
part is, okay, after the prioritization is the auto-fix capabilities that are already also in place in several situations. And that goes directly to improve the productivity and the velocity. If we are able to solve the issues automatically, now probably are more applied to SaaS solution and ICA with different scenarios. But I think that is also a new way to accelerate everything, even for doing the automatic remediation and free the developer for doing even this correction and allow them to focus on the innovation, developing new functionalities and this kind of thing. So I think that just to cover all the stages of the vulnerability management, yeah, I agree with that. For me, these are the three big places. I don't know. Well, I think that you already mentioned several things. So if you had mentioned that the things that they can or the places the artificial intelligence can contribute, the different capabilities and the different stages of the management. If we want to start uh, scaling or to start putting, let's talk about the scaling. If we want to include these capabilities, or we have the cloud security here, a lot of organizations are now building everything in containers or environments, serverless, and these kind of things. Uh, how do you think that we can integrate these capabilities to control what the teams or the DevSecOps teams send to production environment?
Yeah, I think AI can really help with the cloud infrastructure, right? And we heavily use containers and manifests and all of these things. I'll take a very simple example. I mean, I want to explain it as simply as possible. Let's take an example of S3 buckets, right? So in an organization, let's say team A and team B both want to provision S3 buckets, right? If they were to do that independently, they would just pick it up and provision it with the security awareness or context that each team has. So the security of these S3 buckets provisioning would vary, right? Either it's you could call it configured or security misconfigured, right? So it's a big gap. You don't know. As an organization, as a cloud security team, you would want to have some certain amount of control for all of these services that are provisioned or deployed or used. So in this case, S3 buckets. So what you could do, you could use AI to write a policy as code, right? You want to ensure that by default nobody can write into it, or you delete an S3 bucket, or the content is encrypted, no public access, these kind of things, right? You want to have n number of controls, and you don't want to sit and write them manually either. So you use AI to write policies as code for all of these different services, and each team, when they use it, by default there's a baseline that is set, a security baseline for an organization that is set. So that's how I believe you can enable cloud security and microservices architecture security using AI, using policy as code. I think AI drastically helps in policy as code itself. We talk about infrastructure as code a lot for cloud security, but moving ahead, policy as code is the next step. It's a plus plus of existing security for cloud security. So that is an important aspect. I think this is something that is not spoken up about a lot, and I think this is where AI can really help if implemented right. You can have a dedicated team to do this and work around this aspect.
Okay, and you suggest to use the artificial intelligence to write the policies. And do you think that the policies or the detectors that check the policies could also have some kind of artificial intelligence support, for example, to decide if the severity or the criticality of be compliant or not with the policy in order to be flexible? For example, until now, the guardrails or the security gates usually are go, no go. It's one option or not, depending on some strict criteria. But in this case, probably, if you have more flexibility or more knowledge about the context, you can adapt if you allow the go to production or block the pipeline depending on the changing context, for example, even.
So I believe it can certainly assign a severity. Yes, we can use AI to assign severities. But again, I wouldn't have a single rule for all severities, right? Maybe if it's a low, I'm okay to directly allow to go into production. But what if it's a critical severity? No, I would want a human oversight, right? So it's about identifying what the severity is, critical or low, what the business impact could look like, and based on that, setting up the policy to either go into production directly or not. Yeah, and I would say when you're still in a POC mode for such a solution and you're still in a trial mode, I wouldn't even let a low pass through, right, the gates. So it has to learn the context over a period of time, and once I'm comfortable with the results and see that there are no hallucinations in this part of the results that are generated, then I think we're slowly okay to adapt and say for lows or maybe even mediums after a point in time, it's okay to bypass the gate and go through, but certainly not for critical and highs.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Very, very good point. I think that the other part is okay. We are talking about how we write the policies. Is the next stage of the infrastructure as code to have more capabilities or be more adaptive. I think that probably would be interesting also to put this intelligence in the side of the developer or the person in charge of writing the configuration of the resources or whatever. So probably if we can provide them self-service tools in the sense that they could test or verify what they are doing, for example, and have some kind of artificial intelligence assistant to support during the development, the configuration, to support in solving potential issues there. It's like to have the expert close to the developer just to support during the development stage. I think that will be an interesting approach in order to avoid or to delay the issue in the stage of just the deployment. I don't know if you agree, or do you see that the
Yeah, I mean,
in the
if you've
development
seen how pen testing community is using AI, yeah, I think it certainly works, and
that's the point.
yeah, I think it's certainly a viable option.
Mhm.
It's still one of the
Nice.
safer ways of using AI in security, so yes, certainly viable. Yeah.
It's just like the same way that we analyze the SaaS, we have everything as code, and we can
Yeah.
validate everything in the developer environment. So we can to the left all the checks and all the support. Yeah, I think that
I
this
think as
assistance.
long as there are code propensity algorithms that are used to understand what the outcome of the verification or the remediation itself would look like, then it's okay to go and recommend it, and also okay to go ahead and fix it itself if it's a low severity issue. Yeah.
Great. We had mentioned before that about the noise, and at the beginning we mentioned that DevSecOps manage a lot of different tools for different things. On average, I think that between 10 and 20 tools, or teams manage between 10 and 20 security tools, different. So at the end, as we mentioned before, a lot of different dashboards, alerts, a lot of different signals. So mm, how do you think, or you had mentioned before, some the duplication, orchestration, these kind of things across all the tools, but regarding the taking decisions, do you think that they can contribute in not only managing data, but also supporting the decision process when the team is managing a lot of different tools?
You mean AI supporting decision making? Is that the
Yeah.
question? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I think so. Certainly, I think AI can certainly make a recommendation or a suggestion, and I did mention previously too. So if you're using the right code propensity algorithms, I think it can also go ahead and make the change itself. And if you trust your AI models and to that extent, and if they're not hallucinating, I think you can take that chance with low severity actions too. AI can certainly be useful in helping with decision making. But having said that, I don't think AI has to be the sole decision maker. It has to be, there's a reason why Microsoft's AI is called co-pilot, right? It's not autopilot. So you're not letting everything to for AI itself to take control, right? It's something that is assisting you like an assistant. It's somebody who's there with you as a partner. So that's the reason it's co-pilot. So yes, it can make recommendations, suggestions, but help you, give you multiple options also. Maybe there is an option C that you have not thought of, because sometimes we are just so held up within our own environment. Maybe AI can get a context from a different environment altogether, maybe from a different source externally, and give you an option C which you never knew existed, and then you go like, yes, I can do this, right? So it can give you options, it can give you recommendations, but certainly not something like carved in stone saying that you have to do this, right? The ultimate control lies with the engineering team or the person responsible for it, but it certainly can give you options and recommendations. I think it can drastically help with decision making and help save time in terms of you researching multiple options. Oh, I can't do A because there's an impact of B around it, so what are my other options? You don't have to spend time doing it. AI can help you with it. They help you with faster decision making by providing multiple options. Yes.
Yeah, and providing guidance. I think that the other added value of this approach that you have mentioned is that, okay, at the end, if you have some support for the decision process, really all the decisions are going to be coherent across the different teams, across the different situations, and more or less applying always the
Yeah.
same criteria and the same approach for all of them. So I think that is it also. The other part, I think, is or the other benefit is if we have something, an assistant or some mechanism there that allow us to know the the severity and the urgency of the alerts. For example, now is the intelligent alerting is in the sense that okay now usually the tools provide an alert for all the issues based on the severity, on the static value of the severity. The thing is, if we can decide if something has to be notified or not, because it requires attention in this moment, instead of being something that could be planned for the future or whatever, I think that will be also a good contribution to reduce the noise in the sense, okay,
Yeah.
put focus on just what you have to solve now because it's real-time problem, it's an attack or it's something. the other things you can plan or you can create a later step to process that. In some places that where this intelligence has been applied, even up to 65% of the alerts has been reduced or has been removed to a different channel. So the focus on the actually important things and urgent things is much better. Probably you can go quicker solving these urgent topics and these really important things. So yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think AI shifts the conversation from what's broken. We are already good at identifying what's broken, right? I think it shifts the conversation to what does that actually matters, right? Yes, we have 100 things that are broken, but what does that actually matters here? So that is where it helps us better, with better oversight, better options, and all of these things. So that's how it's going to change things for us. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we have mentioned a lot of things regarding the vulnerability management, the evolution and contribution, how we can improve everything. Okay, if we want to implement this in the real world, okay, how we can go ahead or what are the recommendations, what are the best practices for success, these kind of things. For example, I think that we have like different application security frameworks like the OWASP SAM, for example, that provide a structure and allows to translate very well the requirements to the actions in the real world. Okay, you are part of the OWASP as mentioned before. So, for example, what would be some of the lessons learned or the practical tips to 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 implement this orchestration with the frameworks?
Yeah, so I think I have seen OWASP SAM being adopted by multiple companies, and one of my previous organizations worked very well with the OWASP SAM framework, right? The key here to adopt this framework itself, if you look at the framework, you would get it that you don't have to be right away a fully mature organization in terms of security or using AI for security or DevSecOps, whatever, right? Or the STL pipelines. So there are different maturity levels that are available. You start off as, okay, the idea is initially that you have to do something related to security activity, right? For the reasons that we all know. And it's just that it shouldn't be reactive. It has to be proactive, and it shouldn't be something ad hoc that you're doing because somebody reported, a bug bounty hunter reported something, so you raise a Jira ticket, go back and fix it. No, that's the most basic thing, right? So it has to be something proactive. You try to build in security from the go into your product. So that is your baseline. Having to build security right from scratch without having to wait for an incident is your baseline. So that is your baseline. Then how do you go from there? There are different maturity levels, right? So the first one would obviously to be having these processes set up. So that's your sale maturity one. And then the second one would be to have something that is repeatable. You want to do it every release, every cycle. So that is something repeatable that you set up. So yes, now you've achieved security processes. Now you've also made it repeatable. But the third one would probably be like, okay, what do we do with this? How do we know we're doing a good job with this? Is it even effective? How do you measure it? You probably have KPIs and metrics. So you start applying KPIs and metrics around it. You make the entire program managed. So that's when your security activities go from being at a basic maturity one to being to repeatable at 2 to going to a maturity level of 3, where they're well managed. We know what the inputs look like, what the outputs look like, what the KPIs are, what the metrics are, how long you're taking to fix issues, how many number of issues you're getting for each of the security activities, and it's reported up to the leadership, and leadership calls out if this is an issue or not, and you take actions based on that, right? You strategize everything around that. So that is one of the other next steps that you would get to. And after that, what do you do after that? there's still always something to do, right? I mean, how efficient it is. We talk about, okay, doing a repeatable process. We talk about, okay, KPIs and metrics, but there are people actually getting burnt out, right? So you want to ensure that doesn't happen. And we want to have good developer velocity. We want great time to market also, right? We don't want security to be a blocker either, right? So that's why you talk about how we want to optimize this entire process, how we want to make it efficient, how we want our developer experience to be good when it's in terms of security. Most times when we talk to a developer about security, they're like, oh my God, that's so much to do. I don't understand, right? So improving that developer experience is the next step. So that's one of the things to do. So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, there are frameworks like OWASP, SAM, etc., and you don't have to right away go there and get all out and try to achieve all of it at once. Start with like doing something proactively, and then get a repeatable process, and then a managed process, and then optimize it, and then ensure that your developer experience is good, right? In the end, security is not just about code or product. It's about policies, it's about people, and the seamless integration of all of these aspects within an organization. And that is what determines how security is built into your product, and not just a number of controls or processes calling out. So that is the key lesson that I've learned, and that is what I've seen it work well also things that work well when the culture of security itself is not there. That's what changes the resistance around security itself. So that's the seamless integration is what, and the step-by-step growth is what is important.
Yeah, I agree. Probably, you are an expert on doing this integration from the perspective of the teams, people, and how to introduce this in the company. So from my perspective, probably more in the product side, and based on the requests from our customers that are trying to implement, for example, OWASP or another, is okay. At the end, they need, okay, you have mentioned it's not about the KPIs, metrics, and these kind of things. It's just change the culture and change the way they work. So at the end, they also need to this easy integration in their workflows. So the product should be integrable in the sense that the product should be in any point of their workflows, and provide out of the box all the checks that the framework demands. In the sense they don't have to do anything. It's the smooth installation, the smooth deployment of the product in order to support the implementation. Is okay. You have a check of confirming or validating or auditing the exhaust analysis, or auditing anything, or confirming if you have the security requirement in the design. All these rule-based and artificial intelligence-based checks that support the confirmation and the advance in the implementation of the framework is something that they demand. At the end, they need to some dashboards in order to show the advance and the success in the implementation of the framework. And the other part is precisely to support or to show the C-level and you have mentioned the leadership team. At the end, they have to see some results. So we need to provide also some dashboards and unified environment where they can see the advance, the performance, the achievements, the KPIs and metrics for this implementation. So at the end, from a product perspective, they require all the checks should be ready out of the box, and some place with dashboard specific for the different frameworks in order to facilitate and to accelerate as much as possible the deployment and the implementation of the product in their workflows. So I think that, or I hope this is support for change of the culture and implementation of the new checks without friction with the development team and this kind of thing. So I think that everything together should be the key areas or the key ideas. Something specific regarding OWASP or for aligning the implementation of OWASP framework that you probably knows better than
I think it's not anything specific, right? I mean, it depends from organization to organization. Maybe there's a startup and they can't completely implement OWASP SAM, right? So maybe they can go for a light version or a tweaked version of it to suit themselves. And maybe there's an enterprise for whom it really works to have the full-fledged framework implemented. They can implement it. Especially in terms of startups, etc., reasonable security is important and not going all out. So it depends very much on the size of the organization, the scale of the product they're trying to secure, and all of these factors come into picture. One size does not fit all. That's the thing with security or any framework that we talk about at a given point.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. I would say that it's not for the OWASP, but probably for, as we mentioned before, in order to implement anything or any framework. I think that there are two important things. One is that some human or something has to monitor everything that we mentioned at the beginning. It's just to implement the trust and the integrity of the system based on this artificial intelligence capability. For that, not only the supervision of the decisions, but also being able to it's related to the transparency and to being able to track to trace everything. That all the decisions, all the changes, everything has a log, an audit in order to connect that decision with the policy. For example, like you mentioned before, everything is regarding policies, people, so you can trace, okay, this decision is connected with this policy, this is the reason, and to have or to be transparent and to be sure that it's not a black box. So we can trust in the artificial intelligence capabilities in the decision they do, and just to reach the moment that we don't need to review and to be reviewing all the decisions on the systems. Mm-hmm.
Yep, you're right.
Thank you very much. I think we are reaching the end of the events. First, we have some questions that we are going to support now, but we need to, if you would like to provide some takeaways for the audience, what are the things that you would like to to remind or that the people take for the day to day, or the three main ideas for the audience?
I think we're at an interesting intersection point of technology, right? We've been doing things the way we've always been doing, and there's suddenly AI or disruptor. So it's a good time to innovate. It's a good time to have fun at work. And so don't just keep doing the same routine and be stuck in a loop. I think take some time out and try to innovate something using AI for your day-to-day activities. And I think that's going to change a lot, and how we're going to do things in the future, going to change the trajectory of security in within organizations, and most importantly, it's going to change your own career, right? So have fun and try your hands. It doesn't always have to turn into a full-fledged project, but you having tried and innovated and experimented on it is what counts. So continue to do that. And yeah, that's the bit that I want to say. I don't want to keep it technical or process or project management oriented, very personal, and I just want to say have fun at work.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree with you. My 3 main points would be start small, in the sense, okay, set some specific area that you are doing manually. I don't know if it's reducing noise, putting together from different tools, doing the prioritization, whatever. Search for a specific area, small. Apply the artificial intelligence solution to that area, to that specific area. Fine tune and try to have a quick win, in the sense that you can demonstrate that everything is working and is providing the benefits that your company expect. The second part is, in order to prepare the solutions or the next steps, put all the information together. We have mentioned before, you have a lot of different places, different sources of information and everything. Integrate everything in one data set, so the models and the technical solutions could have all the information together in order to manage and to have all the context and all the things. So you can iterate later to a new use case. And at the end is start small, put all the information together, iterate, searching for new scenarios or covering new scenarios, and iterate again, again, and again. So I think sometimes you have in very small quick wins and small steps. At the end, you are going to cover most of the areas that you are doing manually. So thank you very much, Ashwin. I'm going to share some questions that we have in the chat. Okay, the first one is related to the to the to the remediation capabilities. And
How
someone
agentic?
asking how agentic AI helps in remediation of the issues.
Yeah, I think agentic AI can help in say obviously you know either you would have provided some sort of RAG as input for it to know what the remediation for specific issues should look like based on a policy or anything of that sort, or a library that you have, or it could be from external sources. So it has this knowledge, and based on that, it could recommend, okay, for issue or vulnerability A reported here, you could go with ABC options as your remediation. It could also use code propensity algorithms to understand that, okay, if this issue is fixed in a certain way, let's say, which is A, and it could cause so and so bugs. So probably don't go with A, instead go with B. So it could do that math internally based on the input that you've provided, based on its own algorithm, and take a decision, predictive analysis on what it looks like, and then provide you the best fit, best recommendation. And that's how it could provide you with what works best as a fix.
Yeah, I think that there has been an evolution from for example, large language models that focus on uh, specific or generic solutions in the sense, okay, I want to solve all the potential issues or all the potential risk based on one model. I think that we are reaching some limitations in the sense, okay, the models can work very well, but for some issues. But I think it's better the approach that going to agentic AI in the sense, okay, build expert agents in different risk issues, one for SaaS, one for infrastructure as code, one for pipelines, one for attacks to a database or whatever. And at the end, let them to collaborate, you mentioned. So you can share and have an expert system where they can decide, okay, who is the responsible for solving this, what's the relevance for this, and build end-to-end solution in the same. Probably the solution cannot or should not focus on one specific point because the solution could reach other areas of the application, the configuration, or even the automation. So probably the solution could take or should touch different places, the pipeline, configuration, source code, or whatever. So splitting the responsibility probably could be something really, really interesting for this part. We have another question regarding who is the responsible at the end in if we are relying the decision in the artificial intelligence elements at the end, who is the responsible, the engineer, the
Yeah, so
organization,
in
the
the end,
model.
in the end, security is not one person's job, right? Security is everybody's responsibility. So all of you are equally responsible to own the decision. But where the buck stops, I would say, is the product, whoever owns the product. So it's certainly not the security team or the security engineer that is coming in to help you with your product. It is going to, if you really want me to pinpoint one person, it is somebody who owns the product, like the product owner, chief product owner, somebody, somebody like that.
Well, at the end, yeah, at the end, the responsibility is for the team, let's say.
Yeah.
These systems are a tool to support all the decision and everything, but as we mentioned before, everything needs supervision, and the final approval is from a person. That probably is going to be the same or shared responsibility. The developer has to be aware, has to be prepared from a security knowledge point of view to apply the best practices, the DevSecOps should block any potential critical risk going to production. So at the end, it's more or less the same. It's just a new tool to accelerate and to reduce the effort to do these things. I think we have more questions. We have like this one. Okay. Regarding penetration testing, well, if we can, I think we have mentioned also something in this line regarding
I haven't done
testing.
pen testing for a long time now, so I'm not really sure how to answer your question. But I do know Kali has come up with some AI-related solutions for pen testing itself, which sort of automates the entire exploit and the kill chain. Right? It has the payload written already for you and exploit ready for it to be go deployed. So yes, I think it's one of the ways to go achieve pen testing using AI as well.
Okay. More questions? Let me check. Something regarding the that is how to convince the C-level about implementing this kind of solutions. I think I don't know if that scans on-premise environment for compliance to standard.
Yeah, I would like to say OWASP is not really standard as such, right? But yeah, so you can have an agentic AI implementation which can continuously scan an on-prem environment, provided it is deployed on-prem itself, right? I mean, if it's sitting somewhere else and then has to connect to your on-prem solution, it's going to be a performance issue. It's also going to be a legal issue in terms of having something AI and agentic connecting outside of your premises. There are many dimensions that come into picture in terms of legal, in terms of performance, and all of these things. But yeah, if it is something that is deployed within your own premises, and preferably if it is something homegrown, yes, I think it's very much feasible and doable. And I do think a lot of teams have already started doing this in their own way. I don't think it's 100% there yet when we say that it will be able to scan for everything around a given standard or any framework that we would like to follow, but at least most part of it should be able to do it. So to your answer, Quinn, yes, it's doable, it's feasible, but with certain caveats around it.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, I think if you are thinking in something in the cloud, probably yes, but I think that these solutions should is not mandatory. They can be on premise also with the rest of solutions, and you have the same issue even for solutions that are not based on artificial intelligence. A lot of solutions has capabilities in the cloud that or in on-premise that are not available in the cloud version because of this accessibility and privacy issues. But I think there is no problem for that. And I think the last one is regarding just to convince the senior leadership regarding the implementations of the artificial intelligence security.
Yeah. So Quinn, I think all of us who at one point were security engineers, we have faced this issue, right? Any innovation idea that you go up to leadership, and it's always not very welcome. So I would say not necessarily just about AI, or maybe it could be about what is this problem solving, right? I mean, even if it's AI, maybe the problem that it's trying to solve itself is not a priority for the leadership. Maybe they have other priorities that they want to focus right now. So there is a specific concept called pyramid of resistance to any new idea that you propose to leadership, right? So it's important to align to that pyramid to understand where exactly the no is coming from, right? Once you have an understanding why it is a no, it is easier to navigate around it and work around it and get your idea accepted. A lot of times we think that probably it's our idea that is not accepted because maybe security concerns or lack of understanding. But a lot of times the leadership do understand what you're trying to say. They do understand, okay, this is probably a value add, but they already have n number of things to do. So they have priorities priority P0 things, P1 things that they want to tackle off first, something that rolls up to the strategy document, something that eventually rolls up to the organization vision and mission statement, something that they can take up to the CEO or the CTO eventually, and even the board if required, right? So that is what they're trying to look to solve first, and not every problem that we bring to them, right? So it's important to understand if this aligns with that or not in the first place, and if you spending cycles on this is also aligned in that aspect or not. Once you get that understanding, I think it's important. It's important to tie your story, your problem statement back to that strategy document to understand, and only then leadership is going to agree to it, right? If you say yes, it's going to solve our P0 strategy item, and then nobody is going to say no to it. I mean, despite security concerns, the conversation is going to flow around, okay, yes, there are security concerns, how do we solve them? Right? So it's just because of a security concern, nobody is going to say no to them. So you'll have to dig deeper and understand more around this aspect. It's more to do with strategy than just AI, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that you mentioned, Ashwini, or from my point of view, you mentioned the two keys at the beginning, is productivity and velocity. At the end, the leadership team, okay, could have some concern about security, but at the end, I think that they search for mechanisms to be more productive, to have more velocity, deploying things, to have more agility, and at the end, if you are able to demonstrate the time you save, the money you save because you reduce manual tasks or you do more things in less time with lower cost. I think that this is the key part for the management layer and for the C-level. And the second part is, okay, you can show the achievements and the tracking of the project with this dashboard, so they can see how everything is evolving, and they can see the translation into numbers regarding these benefits for the team and these kind of things. I think that these two angles are the most important thing to convince them, because they see the return
Right.
immediately in the product and in the numbers. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
we
that's a good
don't.
summary of what we
Yeah,
spoke.
we don't have any more questions. So, Ashwini, thank you very much for sharing your experience and your perspective today with us. I hope everyone who joined us take away some tips and some new ideas for this, and that you enjoyed the safe bet. So we have seen that the artificial intelligence is not just a buzzword; it's a fundamental capability when we have the purpose to improve our security and our productivity and our DevSecOps process. I think that when we use the context and automation, the orchestration of different things scales and allows to improve the speed of our security teams, okay, without impacting in the development process. At the end, if you are working on vulnerability management, if you are doing pipeline security, if you are trying to implement or WASP or another framework, at the end, everything more or less is the same approach. So again, we hope you have some new ideas you can apply to your day-to-day, and we love to hear you from you and your ideas from the event. We'll see you in the next talk, and thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Jesus. Yeah. Bye.